look around me.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Manthology Show, life by three white guys in their 30s. In today's episode, backpacking Europe, genderless babies, summer boating, and a few of our favorite Canadian things.
Oh.
Josh, Derek, welcome to the show.
Blake, it's fitting that podcast rhymes with wad blast because that's what we're about to do. We're about to blast our wad of podcast brilliance upon the world. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
I don't think that's that it rhymes.
Wow, Derek, welcome
Good
to
afternoon,
the
fellas.
Yeah.
Maybe we should redo that one.
No, we'll just roll with it.
Just roll with it? Okay.
We're just rolling with it. Wilson's giving me kind of a... He's not sure if that joke landed, but, you know, we'll just let it fly. Before we get into the meat and veggies, to keep with Derek's theme...
It's going to be dick jokes for a half.
Before we get into
the tone's been set.
Yeah. Before we get into the bulk of the show, we want to encourage our patrons, our listeners, our subscribers to please rate us in iTunes. It helps a bunch. It helps make people aware of this here podcast. We would appreciate if you would go in, give us a star rating, one that you think is fair, and also offer your written review. We would greatly appreciate it. You can also become a patron at manthologyshow.com, or you can contact us at men@manthologyshow.com or via Twitter at manthologyshow. So to start this episode, fellas, I just got back from what is probably one of my top 5 all-time adventures I've ever been on in my life.
Well, let's hear it.
So I teased on the last show, the last show when it hit. I just got back from a 10-day, 3-country trip through the Western Alps of Europe around Mont Blanc, as they say, or in Italy, Monte Blanco. And it was amazing. The food was amazing. It was like a string of long half or full day hikes, but then at the end of the day, you got a warm bed, a crazy good 4-course meal. It was beautiful. It was epic. It was adventurous. And I finally understand what all the hubbub about backpacking Europe is.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What did you do to be the annoying American tourist?
I was loud, very loud.
Check.
I was opinionated.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
I'm trying to think what else.
Did you tell them what they could do to make their country run better? I
did that. I asked inappropriate questions.
As we do.
Way too impersonal. On that note.
Completely ignored all social norms and cues.
Of course. I will say this. There was this epiphany moment where I traveled with a group of 12. There was... my good friend Wesley, whom Josh knows, and then we had a guide, and then there were, if I'm doing my math right, there were 9 other people with us. And so there's about 7 Americans and whatever, there were 5 Euros with us as well. One Canadian, well, not quite Euros. There was a Canadian, a Swiss, a couple Brits, and a Kiwi, I think, if I got my math right. So I was talking with...
You guys sort of light racial slurs, correct? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I channeled my inner Austin Powers to make fun of different accents. That was another way I was American. But I did get in this funny conversation where this Brit, he was a really nice guy named Tom from Brighton, England. And he was like, I just don't understand, why Americans just... sometimes ask inappropriate questions such as, how much did you pay for that? And I'm like, dude, it's not that we're trying to say that we paid more. We just don't want to get ripped off, dude. We live in a haggling society, so it's like just sharing that intel makes us smarter buyers. And he's like, oh, I guess that makes sense, but it just comes across as cheap. And I'm like, well, that's just kind of the way it is. Unless you haggle in America, you're going to, he was like, he told me this and it just didn't make sense. Like, you would just go and pay what the car price asks. And I'm like, no, that's un-American to do that.
There's the fun in that. There's no gamesmanship in that.
So I had a lot of great, discussions about cultures and different countries. It was a great group. We just had a really amazing time. Everything was done in jest, and seriously, good food, incredible mountains. We hiked through snow. We got lost at the Italian-Swiss border. That was kind of sketchy but fun. I don't know. It was our longest day was like a 19-mile day. It was just incredibly long.
Wow.
Very long 12-hour day. That was the longest, but other days were like, probably 5-6 hours. 8 hours was probably the average day. So very strenuous, but it was amazing, man. Carried everything on my back. Slept in a communal little hut, as they say, or refuge, with a bunch of stinky Euros that don't use deodorant.
But that was pleasant.
It was. It wasn't as bad as I'm making out to be, but there was some. At one time, we got in this room that had like 16 beds in there, and I get in there and I pulled the mouth or chunk from Goonies, where I was like, "Man, this place smells like phys ed."
Of course.
Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, there's nothing else I can say. It was a worthwhile adventure, and I think the way I would describe it. So for all you American listeners or North American listeners, when you go roughing it for several days or multi-day hike, you have to take a tent, sleeping bag. You maybe end up sleeping on an uneven dirt floor. You don't get a good night's rest. You're packing canned foods or MREs. It's just and that's how it really is roughing it. Whereas with this, you still get the same kind of incredible day experience or trip or isolation of just you in the mountains and a cool trail. But then you get a warm bed and a hot meal at night. So it's something you just can't get, with our great outdoors over here. It's really cool. So like one hut that I stayed in was like above, it was like 7,500 feet elevation. And I think more than half of them, they have helicopters fly in weekly supplies. So that's the kind of situation you're dealing with, where it's just amazing. Nothing like that would work here because there's just not enough people traveling through the mountains to justify that kind of economy. But so yeah, these summer places, they're only open for 3 or 4 months in the summer, and they're just packed to the gills with people. It's cool.
It is good food.
Amazing food.
Yeah,
it was like again, I'm not joking. Like every meal I had was like a 4-course meal. No lie. Like
wow.
Dessert. It was all family style. So you go into this big kitchen with huge long tables. Everyone sits down. So we sat down with our group, but also had other people in the room, and just amazing French, Italian, and Swiss food that was just most of which was worth writing home about. There was a few. I'll say this about the Swiss. It's a bit bland.
Is it really?
Their cheese is awesome. I had raclette, which is that they heat up that cheese wheel and then scrape off the cheese onto a plate. And I had really amazing fondue. But other than that, it's pretty bland food outside of the cheese. It was the best cheese I had of the 3 countries I was in.
I guess that's really all you ever hear about from them is their cheese.
Yeah, their cheese. You don't. There's no such thing as
and their pocket knives, obviously.
You don't hear such a thing as a Swiss restaurant. I rest my case.
Well, their chocolate though too is pretty.
That's
amazing.
true. Yeah, chocolate.
Yes, I had chocolate. All 3 was incredible. But yeah, the Swiss chocolate probably was the best of those 3 countries. French had the best bread, I would say, and I favored that food probably a little more than even the Italian. I thought it was they just kind of really simple foods that have bold flavors and taste delicious. So yeah, the food was amazing, and it was a reminder to me that one of the problems with America is I think sometimes we just treat food as fuel. Just shove it down. Whereas it's cool to be in a culture or cultures that they really do take pride in cooking a wonderful meal and then savoring it and spending an hour or 2, sometimes 3, enjoying it. So it's cool.
They're very serious about food, and not even about just the cooking and the eating of the food, but the whole thing surrounding the food. Like breakfast in Europe. I remember I went to Germany and stayed in this little hotel, and they said they had breakfast in the morning, and I expected something like in America where they give you like a little bowl of Frosted Flakes and a waffle.
Continental breakfast.
Yeah. I went downstairs in the morning and I could not believe it was like when they open up the door in Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. I thought I slept in. This had to be like a dinner spread. No, they're good morning. No, this is breakfast. They sit down for, at least an hour, 2 hours for like every meal. And they take that time very seriously.
Yeah, I found myself even getting antsy. Like we had a big hiking day ahead of us.
Totally.
And I had a British guide, and he's like, "Yeah, we'll do breakfast for an hour." I'm like, "A freaking hour? An hour? Let's get going, guys." It's like, torque it down, and then let's go party. It's just kind of
what's taking you so long.
So yeah, it's slow going, but it's a good way. It's a good way to do it. By the way, isn't it funny how we called it? Continental breakfast sounds so sophisticated, but it's pretty crappy when you think about
horrible.
it.
It's horrible.
Oh man. Anyway, it was great trip. If any of you European listeners or anyone else, any other listeners that have done backpacking Europe, I want to know your thoughts. I want to know what your thoughts are about your trip. Send us a tweet at Manthology Show or email us men@manthologyshow.com. Derek, we got a bit of a controversial talking point that we want to broach this week. I want to know what's going on in your corner of the world.
Well, listen, here's the thing. I don't like to come across as the guy who's just crotchety and old and doesn't understand modern society. I don't like to be that guy. But it's not my fault. It's 2016's fault. Because it seems like every week now, 2016 is throwing some crazy bullcrap at me that I just don't know what to make of. So
it's not been the best year. I'll agree with you.
2016 sucks. We're halfway through. We're no longer in the opening scenes. I'm pretty sure this movie sucks, and I'm ready to leave her. So here's the thing. There was I don't know if I can get in trouble for this, HIPAA or whatever, but there was a baby born recently in Pittsburgh. And the parents, I guess, asked the hospital to not assign a gender to the baby.
Oh, jeez.
And the reason is they want to wait until the baby's old enough to proclaim which gender it identifies as. And then that's the gender that they're going to go with. This is the first I've ever heard of this. Yeah. I didn't really know what to make of it. So I present it to you guys. What the hell is going on here?
What the hell is going on exactly? What is
I don't even know where to begin with this.
Well, I think I've heard about this, Derek, before, and I think it's maybe well intentioned to account for the correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's less than 1%. It's a way less than 1%, point something percent of the world is born, with both genitalia, or
right.
they're born psychologically not identifying with what they're born with. But there was a report that came out recently. It was like gender. That's scientific. You either have a twig and berry, or you don't. Right. You have a penetrable hole, or you don't.
And you've either got an innie or an outie. One of the
there we go. So that's not up for debate. Now, at the same time, there are people that psychologically don't identify with what they've been scientifically given, and that's a whole nother thing. But yeah,
right. Well, and that's fine. I'm totally fine with that, with the transgender and with the gender identity. That's all fine. But it's just weird to me that now we're as soon as you're out of the womb, you're being confronted with 2016. We're ignoring the science of what's between your legs and just we'll see. We'll just wait and see. It's right there. You're looking at it, and there are reasons to assign. There are reasons to pick. And if the kid when he's 8 years old, if it's a boy and decides to wear a skirt, that's great. Hey, that's awesome. But can't we at least start from the basis of one or the other?
Here's what you are. Yeah. No, I completely agree. And there's so many things I want to say about this that I'm not going to. But the other thing is that's some lazy ass parenting also in some ways, because now you're putting this weird burden on this kid.
Exactly.
That at some point this kid's got to choose, right? Which is just ridiculous. And
Yeah.
what if he's a boy and he he realizes how ridiculous it is, and his parents come to him when he's 10, and they're like, "Well, now, Timmy, do you feel like you're a boy or a girl?" And he's like, "I'm a freaking boy. What are you talking about? Look at me. Why did you guys wait so long?"
I mean,
it's like a toddler doesn't even know what they want to eat for dinner, let alone what their gender is. It's just
it's so
way out of their league. Yeah, I think another thing that related to that, Josh, what really kind of gets me, and I don't know, I'm just making a guess here, but don't use your kids. What a horrible parenting strategy to use your kids to prove a point or to advance an agenda. That's a really, really sad thing if that is what this family's doing.
Yeah, it totally seems like they're using the kid to make their point about their. Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, I'm on your team, guys. Like, I'm all for, like, I'm one of you. Like, that's fine. But, like, it just seems you're putting this poor kid behind the 8 ball right away.
Yeah.
Like.
Why? Just so you can get a small write-up in the local paper?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, come on.
Yeah, it's bizarre. I'd love to know what, Derek, we used to work with a transgender. Mm-hmm. You remember? It was a guy that became a girl, and that was my first hands-on experience. And I actually loved how she approached us. She just wrote an email. She's like, "Hey, this is gonna sound really weird. I know this is totally out of the blue, but I've never identified as a boy, and I'm in the process of changing into a woman. I hope you can respect it." It was really cool. It was a dude way of delivering the news, I thought, right. And I always respected that. But I'm with you, Derek. I can't respect this. This is I think 2016 is overthinking everything,
creating problems that aren't real.
Exactly. We've talked about that a little, but it's just this is way overthinking things, and it's sad. And there's gonna be a cost or a consequence to pay for this, whether it's with the child or with society as a whole. But it ain't right.
And kids are brutal. Kids will pick on you for your shoes, let alone the fact that you don't know what, like can you imagine what this poor kid's going to go through? And I don't want to come across as insensitive. So maybe if we have any, transgender listeners that could chime in on this, but it seems to me that, a lot of transgender people have no problem. You can still decide later.
Right.
When you're able to make that decision, it doesn't seem like something that right out of the gate you should be putting on I don't know. It just seemed like a very, very strange parenting decision to me.
It is.
Well,
it absolutely is.
I think too, about this, you're right, Derek, kids can be jerks, but that's all right. Do you know? I'm sick of adults projecting onto children. You need to act like grown-ups. It's but they're not grown-ups. This is how they're figuring it out. You did the same freaking thing when you were a kid. You were a jerk sometimes. You were a bully sometimes. Or maybe you weren't. But that's the whole point. That's how we learn. Is that it's the right to work through that. So. Oh,
hey, I'm pro-bullying, and I think we're ruining an entire generation.
That's just it. That poor kid's gonna, I mean, what about missing out on all the bullying?
We're ruining an entire generation of bullies by trying to soften them. Let them bully.
Yeah, I know.
Well, Wilson's looking at me trying to bully me to go to the next segment. So thank you very much, Wilson. You're right, Derek. 2016, right in the face.
I would like to
right
know,
there.
I'd like to know from some of the audience too. What constitutes the gender? Is it science and physical, what you got, or is it more psychological?
Well, isn't there? I think the key here is semantic. I think there's a difference between sex and gender. Sex is science. Maybe gender is psychological, and that's fine. But can we at least agree that you've got one or you don't?
Yeah.
It's crazy times. All right, fellas, let's move to something a little more lighthearted. Fun times. Josh, it sounds like we're entering in July, the middle of the summer month, where heat temperatures are rising. People are getting out on their boats much more, and it sounds like you just had a little boating escapade over there in Georgia.
A little light boating, as you guys know, here in Georgia, it is hot as hotter than the devil's balls and absolutely miserable right now, and will be for a while. But yeah, we went out on the boat, went out on the lake last weekend. We're going out this weekend, and I realized that as I was out there, my God, I know nothing about boats. I was telling someone, earlier, they're like, "Oh yeah, what kind of boat were you on?" I was like, "Oh, I don't know." And I was trying to describe it, and the only thing I could describe it was I was like, it's one of the big slow ones. That's the best I could describe a boat, which, by the way, is a pontoon boat. So in Josh terms, that's the big slow boat. But yeah, I have no idea about boating, and it's something that I'd like to learn more about.
Derek, are you a summer boating guy?
I'm a summer guy. I like water. I don't have a boat.
Yeah.
But I like to kayak. Here in Pittsburgh, you can rent kayaks and kayak all over the city, and I do that a lot in the summer. Jet skiing is my favorite thing ever. I went jet skiing the morning of my wedding. It was the greatest. Oh my God, it was the greatest day of my life, and I'm not sure which
was better.
Yeah, I'm gonna be real honest.
I love you, babe, but the jet ski was a lot more fun.
Ski was fun.
Listen, at the very least, you got me to say it was the best day of my life, but I can't commit to the idea that it was solely because of the wedding. Jet skiing in the Atlantic Ocean was unbelievable. So yeah, So I guess I'm definitely a boating kind of guy. Fun fact on the jet skiing though, I was jet skiing in and it was actually in the Florida Keys, so the water is just like perfectly clear and like still. So we went a couple miles off the coast and went swimming in open ocean. And when we came back, we found out, we took our jet skis back to the guy. Oh, what'd you do out there? Well, the water was so clear, we had to just jump in for a minute. And he was like furious that we did that. He said, that's the Hammerhead reef. He said we were very, very fortunate to have not been picked off by a hammerhead.
Oh my gosh!
Yikes!
Which is maybe the manliest thing I've ever done. And I told my wife that it's not that I wanted to die, but it would have been pretty cool if you said my husband was eaten by hammerheads the morning of the wedding.
It would have been. You're right.
Like, would have been a great story. Great.
But anyway, I would like to parlay that into boating. So I'm a big fan of being on the water in the summer.
See,
I am too. It's so much fun, and I think I realized this year that I think I prefer being on the lake more than I do
to the ocean.
Out, I do.
Why is that?
Well, for one, sharks.
Oh yeah,
hammerheads territory.
I'm probably not going to die from getting eaten by a lake shark. No, I don't know. Maybe there's more around here for one, so it's more accessible. But it's just, I don't know, kind of calmer. I don't know.
I get you, Josh, on like feeling inadequate around a boat because I don't know how to drive one, and I'm with you where I won't say I'm with you, but I can't decide if I want to learn how to drive a boat or if I want to just keep throwing gas money at people that do have boats so I don't have to do it. So I'm kind of...
That's where I've been forever, and I feel like I need to sort of step it up and get behind the wheel.
Yeah, I kind of thought about it, but I just throw cash money at the boat holders that I do know. So, like, it was funny, our friend just took us out, and I just shoved some cash in his hand at the end. He's like, no, this is way much than the gas. And I'm like, look, let's just say this is the deposit on the next trip. And he's like, well, okay, fair enough. So kind of buying my way into manliness, I think, in that regard. But I'm with you, Josh. I feel inadequate. Like we're pulling out of the harbor, and he's like, look at that XJ900. And I'm like, I don't even know what color that boat was, to be honest. But if you know the make and model, all power to you.
She's a beaut, Bob. Yeah, and there's also I noticed there's all sorts of weird boat etiquette that I know nothing about. Like we went out a ways and we went to this little a little cove swim area, parked or anchored or whatever, and there's a rope swing, and we were there for a while, and then some guy drove by on his boat, and my uncle was just like, golly, can you believe that guy? And I was like, what happened? And apparently he was, he broke boat etiquette by how fast he was coming in by us, and I didn't even notice. And the guy came back again, and my uncle's like, "Oh my God, what fast!"
Can you believe that guy?
So there's all sorts of boating etiquette that you got to learn too.
So what's your Derek and Josh? What are your favorite aspects about boating in the summer?
I think one just being on for the ride. Just is always fun. I'm with Derek. I also love the jet skis, but I tell you, man, even though I'm getting older, I still love the tubing.
Oh yeah.
I feel like I probably should have graduated to skiing by now, but I'm like,
I think whatever floats your boat. But I will say, like, last year was my first year doing wake surfing, and that changed my life. Like, it's not as hard on the body as skiing or certainly wakeboarding, which can be really tough on the old crashing and whatnot. But it's so cool to like have that huge permanent wave that you can just ride in and out. I mean, I'm still a newbie at it. I can't ride it for more than, I don't know, maybe a few seconds. I'm still working on it. But it's such an exhilarating feeling to toss the rope into the boat and be following the boat, by riding a wave with not being towed at all other than the wave. Yeah. It's a really, really cool, really exhilarating feeling. But other than that, I'm with you. Like, I just like the whole idea of like loading up a big cooler with drinks, a ton of ice, some snacks, some licorice and goodies, and just sitting out in the sun and having it rock away and drink and just be merry. It's just a sweet, it's a fun time. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, summer in general, I would say, is the closest I come to any point in the year at being happy. So like in winter, I'm abjectly miserable. Like, I'm
really,
pretty much ready to die every day. But at least in the summer, I'm like, all right.
Derek, if I could take a seasonal mugshot of you, I just imagine a frown in winter, spring, and fall, and then a mugshot of you in summer. There's a slight smirk, a slight little uptick.
Yeah. I'm like, all right. This is all right. This is fine.
Oh man! So there was to segue into our next segment. One of my favorite movies, Great Outdoors. Any fans out there? Great Outdoors.
Yes.
If you remember the boat's name, do you remember the boat's name of Great Outdoors?
No, I don't.
Derek, do you remember? It's the most manly name for a boat you will ever encounter in your existence. And the name of the boat, it was Dan Aykroyd. Was it Dan Aykroyd that was with John Goodman?
Yeah.
So
John Candy.
John Candy. Dan Aykroyd is the rich, annoying relative, right, to John Candy.
Yeah.
And he has a speedboat that the back of the speedboat is called, or the name of the boat is called Suck My Wake.
Suck My Wake.
That is Dan Aykroyd's boat name, and of course I'm talking about The Great Outdoors, which is a Canadian movie which took place in the Canadian outdoors, which brings us to our current topic of Canada Day.
I gotta say, right there, those Segway classes you've been taking are really starting to pay off.
They're paying off.
Smoothest one yet.
Paying off really well. So it's Canada Day, or is it? Yeah, Canada Day. I don't even know if that's Canadian Day or just Canada Day. I'm guessing it's Canada Day. Their Day of Independence.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, tell us more. What's that all about, Blake?
I really don't know. I'm just guessing that it's their day of their Independence Day, which seemed to be a very bloodless, boring transition from the United Kingdom to becoming their own country. I could be wrong, but that's my guess.
Well, I can tell you exactly what happened. They sat down and they politely came to an agreement that, okay, sounds good.
Can we be free? Eh?
Hey, okay.
Sorry, we're our own country now. Sorry. Or we're so sorry.
Sorry.
Nothing personal.
So we wanted to take this opportunity to discuss our favorite things about America's hat. What do we like about Canada on this here show? Josh, Derek.
I know Derek's a big hockey fan. Hockey.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I love hockey.
Is that the greatest export that Canada has ever exported?
For me, it's a three-way tie between hockey, poutine, and Bret the Hitman Hart. I would say those are my...
three-way tie at top.
And you know what? I got news for you, France. You may have invented, existentialism and, wine or whatever.
And modern cooking.
Canada's got hockey, poutine, and Bret the Hitman Hart. I put that up against any of that Euro trash you were over there dealing with.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Shots fired. Shots fired.
Whoa.
Oh, you invented. I'm sorry. You invented democracy. Well, democracy's not going to do you any good in the squared circle, standing toe to toe with the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be.
Derek, they did, by the way, invent modern cooking techniques. So we kind of got to tip the hat to the old saute and barbecue and deep fried chicken and whatnot. They did claim that too. So
right, that's fine. I'll give them that.
But Brett takes all, right? The hitman.
Oh, he's a 5-time world champion, Blake.
Okay, so I like your poutine. I for some reason I thought that was a southern dish, but I guess you're right. I think that is Canadian, and that is the way to eat French fries.
Oh, is there any other way? Take that, France. Canada even does French fries better than you.
Okay, have either of you been to Canada?
No,
I have.
Have you?
I've been to Montreal.
Did you have the bacon there?
Yes.
It's called. Well, they call it back bacon. Am I saying that right?
Oh, I'm not sure what they called it.
Well, anyway, it's like 3 inches thick. It's not that thick, but it's way thicker than the bacon we have here. And while I like American bacon, this bacon takes the cake. Well, if I can say that.
Isn't this a great example of some of their weird use of words? I mean, isn't Canadian bacon ham?
Well, in America it is, but you wouldn't say. I don't think you call Canadian bacon in Canada.
Yeah, that's not actually Canadian bacon. It's the same way Italian wedding soup isn't actually Italian.
There you go. That's America's name.
That's an American
Canadian
invention.
ham. Yeah. So yeah, it's different. All I know the bacon up there is 2-3 times as thick. It's a lot more fatty, which ergo means more delicious, and it is. It is good stuff. So I'm a big fan of the actual bacon, not the American euphemism.
Yeah. One thing about Canadians that I've always thought is like don't they just sort of feel like imposters? Like when you see a Canadian at first glance, they look and feel like they're one of us, right? Yeah. But it's not till you get up close and you're like, wait a minute, what's something?
Hey, something's a little off here.
It's like porn stars. Like from a distance, you're like, oh, wow. But then once you get up and you look, you start to see the disformations and the ugliness they all have. But there's a couple of phrases that I found that I really like that are obviously a lot different than we use. For example, do you know what this is an example of how they're very factual with their naming. Do you know what they call pre-gaming in Canada? And of course, I'm talking about like when we before we go out to a bar or a club. Oh. Yeah, we're drinking, right?
Okay.
Here we call it pre-gaming, and up there they call it, anyone?
I have no idea.
Pre-drinking.
Okay. Makes sense.
It's a little on the nose. Down here we call them cigarettes. Up there they call them darts.
Darts.
Okay. How about that? Smoking darts.
Don't they call them? I think they call them fags in Europe, or was that used to be here? Okay, all right.
But that was pre-Brexit. I don't know if that's
they may have changed.
Yeah, could have changed it. Yeah, changed it.
We call them couches and sofas. Up there, they call them Chesterfields.
That makes sense. That's a nice Chesterfield. Really? Yeah. Chesterfield?
Yeah. Huh. And then if we're going out for a drive in a car or a snowmobile, they call it, and this is the most Canadian of them all, they call it going out for a rip. Out for a rip, eh?
Boy.
That's a good one. Yeah.
So tip of the cap to all of our Canadian listeners.
Oh, they also, what we call Starbucks, they call Tim Hortons. That's
true. I ran into many Tim Hortons. And in fact, I liked Canada so much, I decided I'm going back. I don't know where. Well, I do know where. I want to go to Banff in the Canadian Rockies of Alberta. The place looks incredible. So, I like you, Canada. you're I think you could do well to, be so unapologetic. Be unapologetic about who you are. You don't have to wave your flag and say sorry as you do it. You can wave it proudly. And, you'll always be our cap. I'll just say that. So.
Yeah, don't worry. We'll always protect you.
Gentlemen, we've reached the end of our show. Josh, tell the listeners how they can participate, please.
Yes, as we mentioned at the top of the show, get involved. Give us some ratings on iTunes. Let us know what you think and how we're doing. Also visit Manthology.com to become a patron, and follow us on Twitter at Manthology Show, or you can send us some snail mail, men@manthologyshow.com.
For Josh and Derek, I'm Blake. Thank you very much for listening to the Manthology Show and joining us this day. We hope you have an amazing weekend, and we'll catch you right here next time on the Manthology Show.
I lost my love.